I decided to do the Great Ocean Road. I think I rang the charity, so Lucy at Neuroblastoma Australia, to say this is what I want to do. And then I think I rang you to say, how the hell do I run a marathon?
Hi, I'm Anna Liptak and I've been a fitness trainer now for over 15 years. Over this time, I've been privy to witness so many ordinary people achieve so many wonderful things. Through this podcast and a documentary I co-produced, I'm Not a Runner, I want to share these stories to show everyone that anything is possible if you have the belief and the motivation. Natalie Bunworth is the next special guest sharing her story on the Anna Liptak podcast. Natalie's quest to raise money and awareness for children who have been affected by neuroblastoma gave her a purpose and a drive to run a marathon. Having never really exercised before, Natalie has now run 2 marathons and raised over $100,000 and much awareness for neuroblastoma. Natalie will show us that sometimes having a purpose greater than yourself can assist you to finishing lines you never thought possible. This show is all about the ordinary, and I know you're not ordinary, but ordinary people achieving wondrous things. And over the past 2 years, I've been privy to see you achieve wondrous things, and it's been wonderful to watch. So firstly, thank you for letting me share your journey. And secondly, who are you and what do you do?
I'm 50 now, and I've got 2 boys who are 17 and 19. And I suppose as far as running went, I was someone who just never thought of myself as a runner. And then my husband in 2008 decided to do the Melbourne Marathon.
2008?
Yeah.
So quite some time ago?
Yeah, so I went over with him, and I remember being at the start line and just being quite surprised I'd always thought of marathon runners as your probably Olympic marathon sort of physique and that sort of fitness level, but there was all sorts of people there. Suppose that planted the seed, and then my boys at that stage would have been sort of 6 and 4, and I decided I wanted to get fit to keep up with them.
Yeah.
So I thought, maybe I could start to run a little bit. So I thought maybe Mother's Day Classic, let's do 5Ks or 7Ks, I think it was.
And had you run before?
No, I was at school. I was the 200 metres, and I'd start walking the last 50 metres. And running was just, I like walking, but I was never going to get any faster. I just assumed that was something I couldn't do.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
So, so I suppose I started with that. It took me 2 years to get to 7 kilometres and do the Mother's Day Classic.
Fantastic. So how did you start?
I did the walk 50 metres, run 50 metres, or run to that light pole and then walk to the next one. So just very slowly.
Very slowly. That's fantastic. And did you do it? Did you do it with other exercise as well? Were you doing other exercise to coincide with that, or were you?
Not really. Then I'd always walked, and then, as I said, it was just getting that pace up a little bit, and and just focusing on that that Mother's Day Classic as a sort of a milestone to get to, sort of thing.
Yeah. Well, I think what you said was interesting in 2008 when you saw the marathon, that when you looked at everybody, you saw all those different shapes and sizes and ages. Because when I'm in the running events, I'm always surprised at the people around me at all the different shapes and sizes, because really there is no set look or that you have to be anything to be a runner.
Yeah, no,
anyone can do it.
No, and I distinctly remember one woman starting the race, and my husband had finished, and we were going out. We had a shower, we'd gone out to dinner, and then seeing her coming back across the finish line, and there was people cheering her on and stuff, but it must have taken, she would have been just at the cut-off as they were putting everything down, but still, she'd done it.
And I bet she was proud with it.
Oh, yeah, and people, greeting her at the finish line and stuff like that.
Fantastic, isn't it?
Yeah.
So what then happened to you? Now you have run 2 marathons.
Yeah.
So how did you go from the 7Ks, and what made you want to run a marathon?
Because I suppose then I was turning 40, that was a milestone, and so the City to Bay was something I decided to do. So I did that.
Yeah.
And then 2014, we had a friend whose son had cancer. Mm-hmm. So we decided to fundraise for him for Kids Cancer Project. We decided to get as many of us as we could in the City to Bay. So we organised 85 people.
Wow.
I think 60 of them were kids. They were his mates, and my sons did it. And
I remember that.
Yeah.
It was great that you did that.
Yeah, so that was something that, and then it became every year the City to Bay, as a group, we would do it. Jay passed away, unfortunately. So, yeah, that became something we did in his memory for a few years as well, sort of thing.
Wonderful.
Yeah, so that started me on the running for a cause, I suppose. And so that became very important to me, that every time I was running, it was actually for, childhood cancer. So I wanted to do, so my 50th was coming up. I wanted to do something more significant for neuroblastoma research. So I decided I wanted to run for Neuroblastoma Australia. And then I decided Jay's favourite player was Corey Enright, who wore number 44, Guernsey. So I decided I wanted to find an event that was 44 kilometres. So that was the Great Ocean Road. So, and then I decided each kilometre was going to be for a different child. So then I started contacting families, and then I think our paths had crossed when Jay, back in 2014, you were going to do organised a fundraiser for him as well. That's when I'd started following you.
Because he's related in my family.
Yeah. So I had a few conversations with you, but and then I started following yourself and His and Her Time. So you guys were always in the background of my running and that sort of thing. Another really big thing was seeing Heather Brooke. I know that you trained her, and seeing her when she passed away, you shared her
story.
Yeah. And the way she said, like, just do it. If you can do it, do it. Like,
we all
set
choose
yourself
our own
a challenge.
finishing line, and she was an incredible lady. Yeah, she was. And still the legacy behind her lives on as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I'd followed you guys at the, I think it was the 2018 New York Marathon and stuff. So, and that was the His and Her Timers that were training for that. And, so I thought, well, maybe it's possible, and, maybe I could do it. And I think as soon as I decided to do the Great Ocean Road, I think I rang the charity, so Lucy at Neuroblastoma Australia, to say this is what I want to do. And then I think I rang you to say, how the hell do I run a marathon? I think I'd done a half, and I'd seen the His and Her Timers because you guys were doing it in memory of Heather that year. You'd had
Oh, that was in the City to Bay.
Yeah,
that's right.
So, so I'd seen you, and my son had done his first half marathon with me. And as I said, so I thought, to get to the marathon, I need some training and I need to find out what to do. So, gave you a call. And I think you got me out to His and Her Time sessions. And then one of the things you suggested was it'd be really good to run with someone.
Yes.
And then you offered to run with me. So let's go out on Saturday. Let's
I saw you run, and I thought, I think we could be a good little partnership. So it was really good timing for me too. Yeah. So that's been really lovely. And I think that's a really important part of running for me. And obviously a lot of people, they like to run with somebody. Some people can do it by themselves. I find that myself personally boring. So it's been really great running with you over these last 2 years and seeing you blossom. It's been wonderful. So take me back. So we started running together in 2018. For 2000, no, so it was the beginning of, I think I signed up 2019 in December. Right. And that was one of the things I remember coming out to His and Her Time, and you were doing all New Year's resolutions. So, and that was the first time I said it out loud. You said, okay, everyone's got to share their goals. And that was the first time I said, okay, I'm going to run this 44 kilometres. And when you verbalise it outward, you then are more committed to it because everyone now knows about it.
And I think at that stage, I'd only sneakily told my husband, and that was it. It was very quiet and stuff. So, so I remember, and we started running, and so that was 2020, and I think we got up to our 20 Ks, and then COVID
hit.
So then I remember getting that, I think we were supposed to run on the Saturday, and I got that message for you, no, I'm not feeling well, I'm not coming out, and then...
And that's a really hard thing for me to do because I don't like letting a partner down when I'm running.
Well, that's what I know. And it was funny because I think you messaged me at 11 o'clock at night going, no, I'm not going to run. And then at 11:30 you go, yeah, I am going to run. I'll be there. And then I think it was 3 o'clock in the morning. It was, no, I'm not going to make it.
Can't run because I wasn't able to breathe. So for listeners that are listening in, I did actually have COVID. I was one of the first people to have COVID. And that was a pretty traumatic time for both of us, really, because we were right at the forefront of COVID.
Yeah.
And it was that night where, and I think that's part of having a running partner, is that you really need a loyal running partner who never really, only if they're really sick, lets you down, because otherwise that trust dissipates, and you can really quickly turn away from each other. So I really don't like letting a partner down. But that night, I was in my head, am I sick? Am I not sick? Yes, I can't breathe.
Yeah.
And I remember that morning saying, oh yeah, no, I can't run. And that was pretty traumatic, because I know that when I got it, then you were pretty stressed.
Right. I mean, well, that's the thing. I think I've got a phone call at work saying, okay, you need to leave now. You don't tell anyone, just drop everything, go home. You're isolating. But then working out that, it was you that had COVID. And then I remember panicking. First thing was I just rang you and, are you okay? Like, seriously, like, yeah, we'd just heard about this COVID and how dangerous it was and everything. It was like, oh my gosh, like, yeah, Anna's got COVID, and yeah, just how sick are you, sort of thing. And
then we had the double entendre because our kids are at the same school. So
yeah, and then the school had COVID, and then it was like, yeah, so it was, really stressful. But I remember the main thing was just worrying about whether, and it wasn't that easy to contact you and that sort of thing. And
then I'm worried that I've given it to other people, so it was all very stressful. Then I'm in hospital, and so anyway, so that was a bit of a setback.
So the marathon was the last thing on my mind then for a while.
Me too. So that was a setback, because you were supposed to be running the marathon about 2 months.
Yeah, we're supposed to run it in May. So and I think probably it was April. Yeah, when we started running again, and I remember I would do 10Ks and you'd come out for the last 5Ks or something like that, just to say, keep me committed to getting out there. And
this is after, runs. I got back from COVID. Yeah, that's right.
And then
I so desperately wanted to do it.
Yeah.
I just want to ask you one question before we move forward about the training, is that really your running had a purpose greater than yourself. So you had the children that you were running for neuroblastoma. So that purpose, I think, is a wonderful purpose, because it's doing something for the community, but it's also doing something for you at the same time. That you had a greater purpose. And I remember many of our runs talking about these children and what you've achieved over the years before, because you've raised, how much have you raised now, Nat?
Well, altogether probably over $100,000 sort of thing,
which is incredible. So we've got that to talk about, which I think is really interesting, because you also try and create awareness. And how do you create awareness for this?
Well, that was the other thing. I think running with you, you were fantastic at, we would share posts, or you'd make sure we got photos, or you'd do video posts like halfway through a run or something like that, just to raise awareness.
And you'd also wear a tutu?
Yes, we'd wear our tutus, and my marathon, I wear a cape and a tutu, and all the names of the children are on the back and stuff like that. We had lots of runs, like, I think, every kilometre is for a child, and you really do get connected to those children. So while we were running, I mean, Marco was kilometre 5, he was in New York having treatment during COVID, so they flew back like 3 times to New York during the height of COVID. So Eleanor, she was kilometre 7, she's in Tasmania, she hasn't been home for 2 years because she's had treatment in Melbourne, and they were in America as well. So and there was just so many of the children. Jazz met us on the finish line.
That was incredible. So you actually didn't get to run, obviously, the Melbourne Marathon, the Lawn Marathon, but you did turn it into a marathon yourself here.
Yeah, well, I think that's what we decided, because one of the milestones was to do the marathon before I was 50, so that was personal for me. Obviously also reaching out to all these children, as I felt that, I owed them to run this marathon. So I think on one of our training runs we decided, well, we can do it anywhere. And I remember you saying to me, it doesn't matter where we do it, so let's just do it along the coast here in Adelaide. Let's pick a date. And you looked at my training and where I was at, and said, I think you'll be able to do it like in September on that week, sort of thing. And I think your son's birthday was one weekend, and we said, let's do it the following weekend, and that works out really well. So
and it was incredible.
Yeah, it was. And the actual day, it was a beautiful day. We looked at, I think time wasn't important, but we just wanted to do it like for 44 kilometres for 44 children, and try and do it in 4 hours 44. That was sort of.
And what did you do it in that?
Yeah, well, we did. We got it, I think it was about 4.5. So, and I made sure I took a little bit of time to get, 4 hours 44. So,
which was beautiful, an incredible run. Did you think that you could actually run a marathon?
I don't think never in my life. Like, seriously, like never. I think, as I said, I think watching you guys in New York and your group of his and her timers, and I mean your mum and stuff like that. I thought, yeah, well, maybe it's a possibility, but before that, no, never.
I really think that's an interesting point that you made there, Nat, because as an ordinary person, myself included, you see these elite people achieving these wonderful things like we do in the Olympics, but there's no way that I think that I could possibly achieve what they're achieving. But when I see normalised, ordinary people doing these wonderful things, such as you, my mum, myself, it makes it actually attainable. Oh, I could actually do that too. And I think that's the real purpose behind myself and this show and the documentary I'm Not a Runner, is to show that we can actually all achieve wondrous things. I'm from a background of elite athletes, and it's really important to recognise that normal people can achieve wonderful things.
Yeah.
So, and I think you've shown that too, that that you've believed in yourself from seeing others, and created that belief. So how did you feel when you finished?
Yeah, so as I said, there was the one in September that we did here in Adelaide.
Tell me about that finishing line, because that was pretty special.
It was. So the whole day was pretty amazing. So my husband and son started off with me, and they were great. They did actually, every kilometre, they would actually ask about the child I was running for. So we started with Sienna, and then we had Isabel, and there was Ava, Eli. So every kilometre, and they wanted to know the story of each child. So we were going through, and I think...
was there a story that was particularly close to you? I mean, I know they were all close to you, but...
there was a few, I think particularly the ones who were in treatment, as I said, so Marco and Jazz and little Sophie, that's here in Adelaide as well. So, so there were some that were quite...
Did that make you quite emotional? Because running itself, that distance can make you emotional by itself. But having that together... It just made it special, I think, to be able to share that, because I think these children's stories have always been special to me, but then to be able to share it with my husband and Jake, and so son ran half with me, and then at Grange I met up with you, and so then we turned around and you were the same, like the whole way we were talking about each child, each kilometre sort of thing, so that it was really special. And as I said, you did the second 22 kilometres with me. Then as we got to the end, I work in childcare, there was a little girl who was having a party at the park was at the 42nd kilometre mark. And so she got me to run through the park, and so there was all these kids run up to me, and there was high fives and stuff, and you were getting pictures and stuff like that. It was beautiful.
Yeah. And then we got to the park, and Jazz, who was kilometre 40, so Jazz is currently having treatment for neuroblastoma, and she was there at the finish line with her family. So she was in a wheelchair for the day, but she got me to push her across the finish line, and up on the hill at Walter Park, she'd made this massive sign that said, "Go Nat, 44 kilometres, neuroblastoma," and she'd stuck it all up on the thing. And Sophie was there as well. So, and Sophie was 3 years old, and she just found out, well, she was cancer-free then at that stage. So, so it was just incredibly special, and there was family.
So special, wasn't it?
And people joined us along, and it was just a bizarre day, like the best way to do a marathon. So much probably better than an actual event, because there was family, there was friends, and people popping in and out, and then
it was spectacular, Nat. So congratulations to you, because you really did create awareness that day. Because I remember people coming up and giving you money as you
that's why
ran
people were about giving us money and donating, because we were in our tutus and capes and stuff like that. So,
pretty special to have all those kids there, and I mean, it was pretty emotional, really. I know that I
by the end of
felt.
it was it was very, very special. And then and then Great Ocean Road, so the actual event was in May this year, and so we had tickets because it was transferred. So my son decided that he would run the marathon as well.
That's pretty incredible in itself, someone so young.
Yeah, so he's 18, he was 18 at the time, and he decided...
I don't know if I'd do that if I was 18.
I know. Well, there's no way. Look, how many years did it take me to decide to run a marathon sort of thing? So who knows what he's going to do.
It's a long time for an 18-year-old, to put aside that training. Yeah. But anyway, let's,
Yeah, so Great Ocean Road was going ahead in May 16th. So we went over there for that, and I remember texting you on the night that it was supposed to be hailing and it was supposed to be freezing cold and like, can I run in my tracksuit or something? I'm going to like be freezing. And then we got there on the day and it was the most perfect day. Like the sunset starting in Lorne. So, and then we started running. So I started with Jake and Jake took off. That was the last I saw of him. And
it's probably the best way when someone's too good, you just need them to go anyway.
Yeah, well, that's right. And then it was and then I remember distinctly getting to the 8 kilometre mark. So that was for Declan, who's passed away a few years ago. He is 8 years old when he passed away. And then there was the most amazing rainbow. And that was me. Then I was just in tears. I was quite overwhelmed at that stage.
Because it is about rainbows for you.
Oh, well, that's the thing. As I say, there's Lenny, we went, you and I did the rainbow run one day down at Glenelg and had rainbows and we stopped for like 20 photos with rainbows and stuff like that.
Incredible. So, and then you got the rainbows in there.
Yeah, and Lenny, he passed away at 16 months old, but his parents live in that area of Lorne, and I texted her the night before saying, the weather looks shit, but I think we might get rainbows if we're lucky. And yeah, so it was, and there was rainbows the whole way. Like it was just amazing.
Incredible.
So yeah, and I can probably remember the kilometre marks when they came out and stuff like that. And it was just, every time I sort of felt like, this is a long way. This is a long way, and this is a lot of time. And I haven't got Anna to talk to me. What am I going to do? And there'd be another rainbow, and then it would just. And I stopped for lots of photos and stuff like that.
So you enjoyed it?
It was fantastic. It was better than I'd ever imagined, actually. So
wow, because it's supposed to be quite a hard one, isn't it?
It was very hilly and stuff like that. So, and it did start to rain at some stage, and it blew, but it was just the fact that I was just doing it, I think, and. As I said, when you're doing it for the children and stuff, so it's like it's not tough when you think of what they're going through.
Yeah, that's interesting, isn't it? Taking that away from yourself, that sort of pain that you are experiencing, because you do experience pain through a marathon, but when you compare it to, like many of my marathons, like you talked about Heather, you think about that and what they're going through with cancer and things. You go, oh, this is nothing. Aren't I lucky to be doing this?
And that was the, and I think that was, I was thinking, I was just so lucky to be here, right, and to be doing it and stuff. And two of the girls, like we had Sophie and Jazz that met us on the finishing line in September. And Jazz is like, she's terminal now, so that she hasn't got any sort of options. And Sophie relapsed in December, just before Christmas. So they had to fundraise $300,000 to go to Barcelona, to Spain, for treatment. So we'd done a few fundraisers and stuff in Adelaide for that to get her across there. So she was on the day, I remember sending her photos. I sent her photos in the morning, but she was in Barcelona having treatment, so her family sort of thing. So, but I tutu and I put on a special crown for Sophie for the photo. And Jazz, I was sending photos to her as I was going along.
Wow.
Yeah.
So. It's spectacular and incredible that you do all this, but it actually is quite stressful, I'm sure, for you, carrying all that sort of emotion for all these kids. How do you deal with that?
It really motivates me to like running for a reason, and just I'd like to do a lot more, but I can't do anything else. So by just doing that and putting on the tutu, sending a photo or messaging them, just to me it's important to let them know that, especially a lot of the children, that they're not forgotten, the ones that have passed away, and then just, to remember birthdays or days they're having treatments or something. It's just, Well,
it's pretty special. So, thank you for all that you do. I think people like you in the community are so important for us and do a lot of work for us, and I'm so proud to support you and be a part of all of that.
As you do, you're in your tutus on Friday.
And now you're going to get me crying now, because it's pretty special, Nat. It's that greater purpose, and raising 100,000, and you saying you want to do a lot more. You can't actually cure them, unfortunately, but we can find a cure for them by raising money with research.
Yeah, it's just become a bit of an obsession, I suppose. It's like, and I don't know if it's interesting. I don't know if I could have run without that purpose.
Yeah, it's driving you, which is fantastic. So congratulations. So how do you feel now that you've actually got a medal? I know we gave you a medal at that end of your...
Yeah, we did get one at the end of that, and then I actually got the one. I suppose it's always about the next event. Then it's like, you think about what can
What
I do?
is next, Nat? What's next for you?
I don't know.
I do know. You're thinking of something.
We were supposed to go to New Zealand for my 50th, so we have flights, and so we've looked at some crazy adventure marathon up in the mountains in Queenstown. So
yeah, beautiful.
So we'll
beautiful. So what would you give as someone who's just starting out exercising, who thinks they might want to try 5K, 10Ks, 21Ks, albeit 42Ks? What sort of tips would you give them?
I think it is good to have maybe someone else who's wants to do it with you, like a running partner, or signing up to like a fitness class or something like that, something that keeps you a little bit accountable, I suppose. And not being afraid to let people know what your goals are and stuff, because that keeps you accountable as well. You do it at your own pace. You're not really competing against anyone else. It's sort of like it's your achievement and what you want to do. And I think that's what, even with our run, like I didn't have to do the marathon in under 3 hours or anything like that. I could slow it down to whatever.
And you still get the same reward and satisfaction, don't you? Whether you get 4:15, 4 hours, 3:45. I mean, I've run marathons from 3:29 to 4. Well, actually, one with my mum at 7.5. I still got the greatest satisfaction for all of them. Taking that pressure off yourself with time. I think it's really important, because then you don't set yourself up for failure. And I think that's why most of us don't do things, is that we're too scared of failing. And, there's people out there that will say, oh, what time did you get? And they'll say, oh, is that all you got? And it's like, well, actually, I'm really proud of that. And do you actually know what a marathon is? And they'll say no. Well, then you probably, I think it's really important for all of us to bring people up rather than bring people down. And I think that's all about, the training that we do, is that it's about doing it. It's about what you want to do and achieving it.
And I think it is hard work. And it is, don't be fooled that it's just, marathon is easy. I think it does take a lot of commitment and time, and you have to get out there every week and do that work and put those kilometres in, and it is sort of next level, which makes it such a great achievement, I think, sort of thing. Like,
because you have to be consistent, and you have to sacrifice different things in your life, and you have to sacrifice different things that you do with your friends, but the achievement at the end, like you say, because you do all of that, and because it's such a long distance, it's worth celebrating.
And I think you have to enjoy, because the his and her time and that support you get is great. So those sessions are fun and enjoyable to do. The long runs I was doing with you, and you're talking a lot and stuff like that, or maybe you put on your favourite podcast if you're by yourself or something like that. But I think you want to enjoy the training.
The training. I think that's really important for anyone with exercise, is that they find something that they enjoy. And as a trainer, my thing is about variety in our sessions. So I've never really done the same session.
No, I don't think I've done the same session with you. You never quite know what you're in for or anything like that sort of thing.
And that's for 15 years, because if I did the same thing over and over and over again as a trainer, I'd be so bored. So I think about the people in it. And so, unfortunately, I've created something that I'd love to be in, but I love that people get so much satisfaction. But I think anyone can find anything, whether it's swimming or whatever, that they could do that as their training for a goal such as this.
No, that's right.
And finding a greater purpose like you have.
I think that's, as I say, for me, that's what I needed to do to achieve that sort of thing. So that was important for me, sort of thing.
And did you have any obstacles? I mean, obviously we had the COVID obstacle.
That was probably a pretty big one there for a moment. Injuries, I think I had a sore knee or some tendon problem at some stage. So that was the only time I went to the physio, and that's when it was a matter of slowing things down and just realising that maybe I think I'd done the stadium stomp challenge, and then I'd done some long runs, and then I'd done a few extra sessions and thought I was superwoman, and then realised that no, sometimes you do need to listen to your body.
Your body will take over, won't it?
And I think you said that if you're in pain, don't try and run through it or anything like that. Like you do need to rest and
listen to your body. It's so important, isn't it? Because you think, oh, my training plan says I have to run 12 kilometres this week, but you don't have to. If your body's not feeling up to it, the best thing you can do is miss it.
Yeah.
And if a training session's not feeling good, you just cut it out straight away.
Yeah.
You
And
don't have to do it.
And I think in the end, to get to that May one, I think I did cut out a few sessions, training sessions and stuff like that, just because I knew my body, if I went too hard, I was going to have injuries or something. And as you say, just slow it down, bring your expectations back a little bit, and then, but still manage to get there. So
yeah, well, congratulations. You ticked off a number of your goals there.
I did. And I finished the marathon, so it's 44 kilometres for 44 children. And then I got my official photo back with my time, and it was 4 hours 40. So that was, with all my rainbows and everything else. I was all
That's pretty special, isn't it?
Yeah.
And you didn't actually realise
No,
that,
I didn't actually slow down. I didn't actually look at my watch or anything particularly, but that was it.
4 hours, 40 minutes. That's incredible.
Yeah, so that was great.
Well, well done on everything that you've achieved, Nat, in so many different ways, personally and outwardly to our community. Is there any way that we can support you? Can listeners support your fundraising in any way?
Well, I've been fundraising for Neuroblastoma Australia. So they're a charity based in Sydney. Lucy Jones, her daughter, Sienna, passed away, I think it was almost 10 years ago now. So, and she was my first kilometre. So kilometre 1 was for Sienna. So, neuroblastoma supports research into neuroblastoma, which is a particular childhood cancer that, the children I ran for all had, sort of thing.
So do you have a GoFundMe page?
I don't have a GoFundMe page, but probably the neuroblastoma, website and you can, I think 44 kilometres for 44 kids, you'll find me as well. So.
Great. Well, thanks for coming in today. It's been really, really great to hear your stories, and thank you for sharing them.
My absolute pleasure. Thank you for being my running partner.
Loved every minute of it. And we haven't finished yet.
And the only time you haven't let me down is you had COVID, so that's all right. The only time you haven't turned up.
Can I really run with her in the morning? No, you can't run with her. Yeah, I can run with her, and I'm falling over, not being able to breathe. Well, I don't think I can run with her.
Maybe
I won't let you down again.
Oh, yeah.
But thanks, Nat. That's great.
No, thank you, Anna. That's awesome.